In this episode of the Great American Cruise-In, I examine a Ford GT40 replica that is stealing all the attention at this Gateway Classic Car Cruise-In. I'm Scott Hudeman, and I'm fascinated with classic cars. That's why I travel from car shows to cruise-ins to meet owners and learn about their passion for classic cars and the stories behind their amazing restorations. So join me as I go deep into this car show at Gateway Classic Cars in Ruskin, Florida, to learn more about this super fast Ford GT40 race car. The GT40 is perhaps the most iconic race car of the 1960s, born with one goal in mind: to beat Ferrari in the game of long-distance sports car racing at Le Mans. Owner Walter Williams was proud to show off his stunningly beautiful replica of the classic Ford GT40. Tell me about this car. It's without a doubt the most unique sports car I've ever seen.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's a 1966 Ford GT40. It's a replica. It was produced in South Africa by Cape Advanced Vehicles. I selected this company because they use stainless steel for their monocoque chassis. The car has replicated the original nicely. The body proportions are all the same as the original car. It's powered by a small block Ford, same as the original cars. My motor was a 302. It's bored and stroked to a 347, producing 470 horsepower and 450 foot-pounds of torque. The power is applied to the rear wheels by a 6-speed German transaxle. The interior, the seats are leather, where the originals were not. This car has air conditioning, which is a nice convenience. And one other thing it has is power-assisted brakes. The original cars did not have that. The car is very user-friendly. It goes down the road at 70, 80 miles an hour very comfortably. I wouldn't hesitate to drive it across the state of Florida.
It sounds like a car that any sports enthusiast would want to own. And with those specs, what top speeds do you think this car is capable of?
This car is capable of 200 miles an hour, as the originals were. Henry Ford wanted to buy Ferrari, and Ferrari changed his mind at the last minute. So Henry got his team together, and they came up with this car. They actually got involved with Lola. Lola was already racing a car very similar to this with a small block Ford in it, so it was an easy transaction. As a matter of fact, a personal friend of mine, Gene LeBlanc, he was a design engineer on the original Ford GT40, so he has some experience with these cars. He worked for Henry Ford.
How did you find out about this car, and what was your inspiration for getting such an iconic performance sports car?
It checked every box for me. I'm old school. I can fix this car. It has a carburetor, a battery, and a distributor. I stated the reason why I went with the manufacturer. They had a very solid reputation, and they're a handcrafted car. They build 10 or less a year. So they take their time, they turn out a quality product, and the car is just a race car experience on the street. And with only a little over 100 of the original cars being built, and starting at about $4 million now, their value up to about 11 or 12 depending on race history, I knew an original was way, way, way out of my budget. So this was the next best thing. And I can drive it and use it. It's not a museum piece. And I don't hesitate to take it anywhere. I just try not to let it out of my sight because it is a race car. The doors don't lock. So you just have to be careful where you park these cars.
You just can't drive a car like this everywhere.
You can, but you can't leave it anywhere for very long. I wouldn't anyway, even though it's insured. It's not speed bump friendly with about 3.5 inches of ground clearance. You have to be cautious of speed bumps and big dips in the road. But other than that, you can drive the car anywhere. It doesn't overheat. It behaves very well. It handles well. Because the motor's in the back, the steering's very light. It has rack and pinion steering, and the steering is very light. And it's just a fun car to drive.
The car is amazingly low to the ground, which I think is typical of any race car.
The seats are about maybe 5 inches off the ground. The car sits very low. I have 3.5 inches of ground clearance. There's a very wide door sill to step over to get into the car. And that's because the fuel cells are on each side of the car. There's one in each door sill, and the door sills are very wide.
Is it difficult for you to get in and out of this car? It feels tight.
So it takes a little talent to get in and out of these cars. When they raced them, they would climb in the car, stand on the seat, and slide down like a sliding board. But I don't do that on my seats. I step in and wiggle my way in. Gravity gets you in, but it's a little effort to get out.
The front of this car is absolutely impressive and has that classic race car look. Tell me about some of the unique front end features that we see here.
Yes, sir. In the front, you're going to see dual fuel tanks. There's a filler on each side, and as the originals were. And there's a switch on the dash where you can toggle between the tanks. When one runs low, you can toggle between the other. Up front is where all the cooling takes place, and the radiator is all the way up front, and the motor's in the back. So we have a section in the hood that is removable. We call it the nostril, and it lets the heat pass through the radiator and out of the car.
Looking at the back end of this car, I'm impressed with a power plant that seems designed to dominate the road.
Yeah, the first thing we notice when we look back here is the exhaust system. It's very unique. They call it a bundle of snakes, and for obvious reasons. There's a lot of tubes, and they just cross over and go into a single muffler. The race cars did not have mufflers. They had straight pipes. The motor itself is placed very far forward up against the firewall. The motor sits behind you, as is the firewall, and it's very, very tight in there. There's not much room. However, the motor is very easy to maintain. You can reach in there and touch everything. Spark plugs, distributor, battery, carburetor. It's all very, very accessible. It has adjustable coilover shocks all the way around, Willwood disc brakes all the way around. The car stops very well. They're power-assisted disc brakes. It's just a very, very nice car. The car is completely fiberglass, with the exception of the chassis, of course. So it will never rust, of course. And they did a nice job with fit and finish. That's very important to me. The car has to look right.
I'm impressed with your thorough knowledge of this iconic car and its history in the racing world, and there's no doubt that this car was love at first sight. So what does this beautiful red GT40 mean to you?
This car just means fun to me. It's just very exciting for me to drive, but mostly I enjoy sharing it with others. I take it to a car show, and that's what I'm here for, is to share the car with other people. Most people have never seen one, and they don't know what it is, and I just enjoy sharing my love for the car. I'm blessed. God blessed me with this car. That's the way I feel. That's what it means to me.
Throughout the day, this GT40 has become a showstopper at this cruise-in and has attracted a serious amount of attention. For sports car and racing enthusiasts, you need to look no further than the Ford GT40 if your intention is to dominate the road. The car features style and performance unlike most cars you will ever see. So if you get the opportunity to take a test drive in a Ford GT40 replica, I advise you to take that offer without hesitation. It may be the experience of your life. Make sure you check out this incredible Ford GT40 and more on our YouTube channel and on social media, where we post the best of the best from car shows and cruise-ins. Just follow the social media links on our website at greatamericancruisein.com. And if you want to show off your amazing classic car on our website, please send me an email with pictures and all the details. See the footer section of our homepage for more information. I want to thank you for spending your time with me, and I look forward to sharing another amazing classic car story with you on the Great American Cruise-In.